Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's college basketball, NBA, and NHL games, look ahead to today's games in each sport. I'm going to do my first NFL mock draft of 2021. I'm going to discuss recent free agency moves in Major League Baseball and my best bet of the day. All right, we'll start in college basketball. We'll go over last night's games, and we will look ahead to today's games. So, without further ado, here we go. UMBC over NJIT, 75-71. Marquette over Butler, 70-67. Notre Dame over Wake Forest, 79-58. Ohio over Central Michigan, 83-69. Eastern Illinois over SIU Edwardsville, 70-61. Kent State over Miami of Ohio, 77-68. Buffalo over Ball State, 78-58. Maryland over number 24 Purdue, 61-60. So that was your classic, the favorite won but didn't cover. Number 2 Baylor over number 6 Texas, 83-69. Number 8 Iowa over Michigan State, 84-78. Ole Miss over number 11 Tennessee, 52-50. Number 17 West Virginia over Iowa State, 76-72. Troy over Spring Hill, 90-73. Eastern Kentucky over Jacksonville State, 86-82 in overtime. NC Central over SC State, 64-63. Clemson over North Carolina, 63-50. Georgia over Auburn, 91-86. Toledo over Akron, 91-76. Number 23 Kansas over Kansas State, 74-51. Morgan State over Coppin State, 95-82. Number 19 Wisconsin over Penn State, 72-56. Number 12 Illinois over Indiana, 75-71 in overtime. USC over Stanford, 72-66. Nevada over UNLV, 72-62. Duquesne over Dayton, 69-64. And Arkansas over Mississippi State, 61-45. Today's games, we have a TBD start time, and that's between San Diego State and New Mexico, which is weird. My projected line here is San Diego State by 15, total 133. Meanwhile, San Diego State is a favorite of 19.5 points. I'm going to take New Mexico getting the points in that one. 4 o'clock, Alon and James Madison. My line is James Madison by 4, total 138. Meanwhile, it's James Madison 8.5, total 141.5. I'm taking Alon plus the points to cover, not the win. 6 o'clock, ESPN Plus, number 5, Houston at East Carolina. My line is East Carolina as a 17.5 point underdog, total 131.5. Meanwhile, Houston is a 15.5 point favorite, total 129.5. So at gunpoint, I'm actually going to go with the over instead of Houston because it's less juice at minus 115 rather than minus 118 if you lay the points at Houston. Fordham and UMass, my line is UMass 8.5, total 136.5. Meanwhile, it's UMass 13.5, total 132.5. I'm going to take I'm going to take Fordham getting the points to cover, not the win. 6:30 SEC Network, South Carolina at number 22 Florida. My line is Florida 7, total 150.5. Meanwhile, it's Florida 8.5, total 153.5. I'm going to take the under 153.5. 7 o'clock ESPNU, LSU at number 10 Alabama. Great game. My line's Bama 4, total 153.5. Meanwhile, it is Bama 8.5, total 163.5. I'm taking the under. That is way too high. As good as both these teams are offensively, I'm going to take the under. I think that's too high of a total. Number 16, Virginia Tech at Pitt. My line is Virginia Tech 4.5, total 138.5. Meanwhile, it is Virginia Tech 3.5, total 136.5. I'm taking another over at minus 112. ESPN 2, Kentucky at number 18, Missouri. My line is Kentucky 1, total 140.5. Meanwhile, it is Missouri 4.5, total 136.5. I hate to do this, but I'm taking Kentucky getting the points at minus 108. I don't know if they'll win, but I think that they'll at least cover. St. Louis and LaSalle, my line is St. Louis 7, total 143. Meanwhile, St. Louis 11.5, total 139.5. I'm going to take, this is another tough call. I'm going to go with LaSalle plus the 11.5 at a juice number at minus 118. Seton Hall and Providence on Fox Sports 1. My line is Seton Hall 2.5, total 146. Meanwhile, it's a pick'em. So I'm going to take Seton Hall and a pick'em against Providence. I think these two teams are even. But at gunpoint, I'm going to go with Seton Hall. ACC Network, Louisville and Syracuse. My line is Louisville 4.5, total 141. Meanwhile, it is Louisville as a 1.5 point underdog, total 140.5. I have to take Louisville plus the points at minus 102 and plus 114 straight up. This could be today's version of Purdue, Maryland, but I doubt it. I love Louisville getting the 1.5 at minus 102 and plus 114 on the money line. They're just better than Syracuse. VCU, Rhode Island. My line is VCU by 3, total 140. Meanwhile, it's VCU 1.5, total 137.5. I'm taking the over at minus 108. VMI and Wofford, my line is Wofford 8.5, total 149. Meanwhile, it's Wofford 7.5, total 148.5. I have to lay with Wofford at minus 114. Chattanooga, Western Carolina, my line is Chattanooga 4, total 150. Meanwhile, it is Western Carolina 1.5, total 147.5. I'm taking Chattanooga plus the 1.5 at minus 120 and minus 104 on the money line. East Tennessee State and Mercer. My line is East Tennessee State 4.5, total 146. Meanwhile, it's Mercer 1.5, total 143.5. I'm taking another dog at East Tennessee State at plus 1.5 at minus 108 and plus 108 to win straight up. UNC Greensboro and the Citadel. My line is Greensboro 11.5, total 155.5. Meanwhile, it's Greensboro 10.5, total 158.5. I have to take the under, 3-point edge on the under, so I'm going with the under. Western Michigan and Bowling Green. My line is Bowling Green 12, total 146. Meanwhile, it's Bowling Green 12.5, total 143.5. I'm going to take Bowling Green minus the 12.5 at minus 114. 8 o'clock, Incarnate Word in Lamar. My line is Lamar 2.5, total 240. Or 140, my bad. And it's Lamar 4.5, total 137.5. I'm taking the over at minus 114. Tulane and Wichita State. My line is Wichita State 8.5, total 137.5. Meanwhile, it's Wichita State 10.5, total 138.5. I'm taking Tulane plus the points to cover, but not to win. UCF and Memphis. My line is Memphis 10, total 138. Meanwhile, Memphis 10.5, total 136.5. I'm taking the over. Stephen F. Austin and Texas A&M Corpus Christi. My line is Stephen F. Austin by 14.5, total 141.5. Meanwhile, it's 12.5, total 140.5. I have to lay the 12.5 with Stephen F. Austin. 9 o'clock, CBS Sports Network number 3, Villanova at St. John's. I talked about this with Derek a little bit when I had him on Sunday night. How good St. John's is playing. I have them projected as 11-point underdog, total 151.5. Meanwhile, it is Villanova 9.5, total 152.5. So I have to lay it with Nova at minus 106, and word just came down that Louisville-Syracuse postponed due to issues related to COVID. So ESPN has to change their marquee game tonight. Oops. Oh, wait, they have NBA on, so ESPN 2 has to change their game. But yeah, that's unfortunate for those two teams. So anyway, I'm laying the 9.5 with Nova. Number 14, Virginia at NC State. My line is Virginia 9.5, total 139.5. Meanwhile, it is Virginia 7.5, total 129.5. I have to take the over at minus 105. They are underinflating these Virginia totals. I took their over in their game against Syracuse, and it worked out. So it's going to be over 129.5 at minus 105. Fox Sports 1, Georgetown at number 15, Creighton. My line is Creighton 13, total 147.5. Meanwhile, it's Creighton 13.5, total 149.5. I'm taking the under. SMU Tulsa on ESPNU. My line is SMU 2.5 total 137. Meanwhile, it's SMU 2.5 total 135. So I'm going to take the over at minus 112. And last but not least, Oklahoma State at TCU on ESPN2. My line is Oklahoma State 3.5 total 140.5. Meanwhile, it is Oklahoma State 4.5 total 139.5. I'm taking the over at minus 114 with Oklahoma State in that one. Now move on to the NBA. We will look back on yesterday's games, and we will look ahead to a busier slate for tonight. Raptors over to Magic 123-108. Raptors 9-12. Orlando 8-14. Fred VanVleet had the career night, 54 points. Nikola Vucevic had 21-18 for Orlando. Nets over to Clippers 124-120. Brooklyn 14-9. Clippers 16-6. Kyrie Irving had 39 for Brooklyn, and Kawhi had 33 for the Clippers. Pacers over to Grizzlies 134-116. Impressive win for Indiana, who goes to 12-9. Memphis 9-7. Domantas Sabonis 32 points, 13 boards. Dylan Brooks had 25 for Memphis. Trailblazers over to Wizards 132-121. Portland 11-9. Washington 4-13. Damian Lillard 32 points and 8 assists. Bradley Beal 37 points to lead Washington. Jazz over to Pistons 117-105. The Jazz 16-5. Detroit 5-16. Donovan Mitchell at 32 for Utah. Jeremy Grant had 27 with 4 assists for the Pistons. Celtics over to the Warriors 111-107. Boston 11-8. Golden State 11-10. Jason Tatum had 27 for Boston. Stephen Curry had 38 points, 8 assists, and 11 rebounds for the Warriors. Tonight's window at 7 o'clock, you have the 76ers and the Hornets. I project the Miami Heat to be 5-point favorites. Oh, wait a minute. I wrote this down wrong. I put Charlotte, Miami, and it's Philadelphia playing Charlotte rather than Miami. Oops. Hang on, guys. Wait a second. Never mind. I had the wrong date. I was looking at the wrong data. Oops. All right, back to February 3rd. All right. I project Philadelphia as a 12-point favorite, total 221.5. Meanwhile, Philly's favored by 7.5, and we don't have a total yet. I'm going to lay it with Philly. Joel Embiid, do we know the status of Embiid? But if Embiid's not there, then my line goes down to like 8 or something like that. But yeah, it looks like that Embiid is playing tonight. So I'm going to lay it with Philly with the 7.5. Pacers Bucks on ESPN. My line is Milwaukee 6 total 229. Meanwhile, it is Milwaukee 8.5 total 232. I'm going to take the under here rather than take the Pacers. I think that these teams will score less than that number. And my number feels correct, so I'm going to take the under in the first of the 2 ESPN games for tonight. The Mavericks and the Hawks. My projection is Atlanta by a half, total 221. Meanwhile, it's Dallas by 2, total 224. I'm going to take the Hawks plus the 2. I'm taking them plus 108 to win straight up. I know Dallas has lost 6 in a row, and everyone says they're desperate, but the Hawks are playing good. So give me the Hawks plus the 2 and plus 108 on the money line. Next up, you have the Clippers and the Cavs. My line is Clippers 11.5 total 217. Meanwhile, it's Clippers 9. We don't have a total yet, but I'm laying the 9 with the Clippers. Wizards Heat. My line is Heat 7.5, total 229.5. Meanwhile, the Heat are favored by 8. We don't have a total out yet. But if the total is anything 231 or higher, or anything higher than 231, I'll bet the under. And if it's anything lower than 228, I'll bet the over. Knicks Bulls, my line is Bulls by 1.5, total 219.5. Meanwhile, it's Bulls by 3, total 216.5. I like the over in this game a lot. The Knicks offense has been better, but their defense has been worse. Chicago is a good offense, but a bad defense. So give me over 216.5 at minus 105. Rockets Thunder. My line is Rockets 3.5, total 222. Meanwhile, the Rockets are favored by 6.5, total 221.5. I am going to take the Thunder plus 6.5. I know they've been terrible lately. 3-point edge on the Thunder. I don't know if they'll win, but I think they're going to play better. You would expect them to play better. Timberwolves Spurs at 8:30. My line is Spurs 8.5, total 222.5. But all the Spurs are favored 8.5, total is 224. I have no choice but to take the under. 9:30 ESPN Suns Pelicans. Solid game. My line is Phoenix 5.5, total 221. Meanwhile, the Suns are favored by 3.5, totals 222.5. I'm laying the 3.5 with the Suns at minus 114. They're a better team than the Pelicans. They have a better coach than the Pelicans. Monty Williams back in New Orleans. That's a weird subplot that nobody's talking about. So I'm laying it with the Suns, 3.5 at minus 114. And last but not least, 10 o'clock Celtics Kings. My line is Celtics 6, total 226.5. Meanwhile, it's Celtics by 2. I'm laying it with the Celtics. Kemba Walker there or not, that's a low number. Even without Kemba, I projected 4. But that is super low. And they're better than the Kings. Jason Tatum will be the best player on the court. And Kemba Walker played last night against the Warriors. So I'm laying the 2 with the Celtics. That is crazy to me. The Celtics are only 2-point favorites in Sacramento. So give me Boston minus the 2 against Sacramento. All right, now we'll move on to the NHL. We'll look back on last night's games and look ahead to today's window, which is not a small window. Not a big window. Yesterday was a big window. Stars over the Blue Jackets 6-3. Dallas 5-1-1. Columbus 4-4-3. The number 3 started game with a goal and assists for Columbus. Mikhail Giergenko. Number 2 started game with a goal and 2 assists. Jamie Benn. The number 1 started game with 2 goals and 2 assists. Joe Pavelski. Turning back the clock. Canadians over the Canucks 5-3. Canadians 7-1-2. Vancouver 6-7. The number 3 started game with 2 goals. Josh Anderson. The number 2 started game with 2 goals and assists. Tyler Toffoli. And the number 1 started game with an assist. Shea Weber. Hurricanes over the Blackhawks 4-3 in a shootout for their 5th straight win. Carolina 6-1. Chicago 3-4-4. The number 3 started game with 2 assists. Alex DeBrincat. Number 2 started game with 2 assists. Jordan Staal. The number 1 started game with a goal and assist. Warren Fogle. And Andrei Svechnikov scored the shootout winner. Blues over the Coyotes 4-3. Blues 7-2-1. Coyotes 3-5-1. Number 3 started the game with 2 goals. Christian Dvorak. Number 2 started the game with a goal. Ryan O'Reilly. And the number 1 started the game with a goal and assist. Vince Dunn, who has been in trade rumors lately. Jets over the Flames 3-2. The Jets 6-3-1. Calgary 4-4-1. The number 3 started the game with the goal, Trevor Lewis. The number 2 started the game with 2 goals, Matthew Tkachuk. And the number 1 started the game with the goal, Derek Forbort. Avs over the Wild 2-1. The Avs 7-3-1. Minnesota 6-5. The rookie on the Wild, Kaperi Kaprizov, scored a power play goal to make that game interesting late. And then Valeri Nichushkin scored for Colorado. Kyogo recorded his 11th assist of the year, which is amazing. Oilers over the Senators 4-2. Edmonton 6-6. Ottawa 1-8-1. The number 3 started the game with an assist. Evan Bouchard. Number 2 started the game with 2 assists. Tyson Barrie. Number one starter game with 2 goals, Jesse Puljujarvi. So a great night for Edmonton. Ducks over the Kings 3-1. Ducks 4-5-2. Kings 3-4-2. The number 3 starter game with the assist, Drew Doughty. Number 2 starter game with the goal, David Backes. And the number 1 starter game with 40 saves on 42 shots, Calvin Peterson for LA. And then obviously Sabres, Islanders, and Devils, Penguins were postponed due to COVID issues with the Devils and the Sabres, respectively. Only 2 games tonight, both on NBCSN. 5:30, you have the Red Wings and the Lightning. The Lightning are a ridiculously huge favorite at minus 360. Detroit's plus 290. Over under 5.5. Over is minus 120. Under is even money. Lightning minus 1.5 is minus 124. Detroit plus 1.5 is plus 106. I'm going to take the over 5.5. I think that's the safest play. I think that the Lightning offense can get going here a little bit against Thomas Greiss. Although under is enticing, but I like the over better. I don't trust Detroit's defense. So give me over 5.5. Maybe an empty netter puts it away for the Lightning. And then 8 o'clock at NBCSN, the Bruins and the Flyers. This game will be called by Mike Tirico, Eddie Olczyk, and Brian Boucher. Boston's minus 138, Philly's plus 118, over under 5.5. Boston minus 1.5 is plus 205, and Philly plus 1.5 is minus 250. I'm taking the Flyers as a short underdog at plus 118. I know betting against Boston has been a thing for me on the podcast. It failed with Washington, but I'm going to try here at Philly. I think Carter Hart can outplay Tuukka Rask or Yaroslav Halak for Boston. And I think that Philly needs this game. So give me the Flyers plus 118 to win straight up. And by the way, Sharks, Golden Knights obviously postponed to the Golden Knights COVID issues. Now I'm going to do my first NFL mock draft of the year. This should be fun. I'm going to be doing these once a week. And once the draft gets closer, probably multiple weeks. So without further ado, here we go. Number 1, Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. If there wasn't any doubt, Lawrence is perhaps the best quarterback prospect to come out since Peyton Manning, and there's no chance that the Jaguars, with Urban Meyer now in town, entertains offers for the pick, let alone pick another player. Lawrence will certainly be someone who will make his teammates better, but the Jags still have other holes to fill on this roster. Number 2, the New York Jets, Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State. The Jets have many options on the table here, whether it's the packages pick to Houston for Deshaun Watson, to take an offensive tackle or a wideout, or to take a quarterback. Here I have them taking the guy who many expected to be the second overall pick at this time 6 months ago, in Fields, who was erratic this past season in college. If Fields is the guy we saw help the Buckeyes defeat Clemson in the Sugar Bowl, this is a major hit. Number 3, the Miami Dolphins from the Houston Texans, Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU. This pick is certainly the most fascinating of perhaps the entire draft. The Dolphins are a team on the rise, and they have been in the Watson trade rumors and could offer this selection, which the Texans previously owned, and Tua Tagovailoa plus more assets to acquire Watson. Let's say things remain as they are now, and they go with the talented receiver in Chase, who did not play a snap this past season as he opted out. The Dolphins are desperate for a top receiver, and Chase has serious potential to be that. Number 4, the Atlanta Falcons, Penny Sewell, offensive tackle, Oregon. Many experts have the Falcons grabbing a quarterback with this pick, but the team insists on keeping Matt Ryan around for a little while longer. Here I have them getting much-needed protection for Ryan with selecting the best tackle in this draft class in Sewell. The Falcons have drafted offensive linemen in the first round with a pair of first-rounders a few years ago, but Sewell is an upgrade over whatever they have currently on the line and has a chance to be in the league for a long time. Number 5, the Cincinnati Bengals. Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, Northwestern. With Sewell off the board, the Bengals snag another solid offensive lineman in Slater, who opted out last season. Slater has shown the versatility to play anywhere on the offensive line, and he would provide much-needed protection for Joe Burrow on what was perhaps the league's worst offensive line a season ago. Number 6, the Philadelphia Eagles. Devontae Smith, wide receiver, Alabama. The Eagles' biggest weakness last season was perhaps at wide receiver due to the age and injuries of the receivers they had. Smith had one of the greatest seasons ever for a wide receiver in college football and won the Heisman Trophy and result of it, and he would instantly become the Eagles' number one wide receiver. 7th, the Detroit Lions, Jalen Waddle, wide receiver, Alabama. Smith's teammate Waddle goes one spot later here in this mock draft. Whether it's Jared Goff or a different quarterback under center, the Lions need playmakers on their roster other than TJ Hockenson, as Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones are going to be free agents. Number 8, the Carolina Panthers, Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State. The Panthers have an interesting roster as Matt Rule heads into his second season as coach. Teddy Bridgewater is only under contract for 2 more seasons, and he's not the long-term solution for the Panthers. Enter Lance, who showed a ton of potential in his college career, and unfortunately for him, he only played in 1 game this fall. Number 9, the Denver Broncos, Patrick Surtain Jr., cornerback, Alabama. The Broncos can go in a number of directions here at the selection. Here I have them selecting a talented corner in Surtain, who has shown the ability to cover elite receivers in college, and the Broncos can use some youth in their secondary going forward. Number 10, the Dallas Cowboys, Caleb Farley, cornerback, Virginia Tech. The Cowboys' defense was the worst in the league this past season, and they can get any reinforcement they would like. Farley is someone that can come in and be a top corner immediately for the Cowboys. Number 11, New York Giants, Gregory Rousseau, defensive end, Miami. The Giants can go in a number of directions here as well. Rousseau is someone who many thought would be a top 5 pick before the season, so this could wind up being a steal of a pick with his ability to get to the passer. This would be a wise selection regardless of Leonard Williams returning or not. 12, San Francisco 49ers, J.C. Horn, cornerback, South Carolina. The 49ers have some options with this selection. This would be an excellent pick for the 49ers, who have a handful of blue chippers on defense. Richard Sherman is not getting any younger, and Horn can come in and make an immediate impact. 13, Los Angeles Chargers, Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive tackle, USC. This may seem like a stretch of a selection here, and I feel that a trade down from this spot is certainly in play. Vera Tucker provides versatility as he can play both tackle and guard, and he would provide much-needed protection for Justin Herbert. 14, Minnesota Vikings, Christian Barmore, defensive tackle, Alabama. The Vikings' demise this past season was largely due to the regression of their defense, which lost a ton of pieces from their pass rush due to injuries and trades. Barmore excels at stopping the run and really showed a ton of potential down the stretch of the season. 15, New England Patriots, Micah Parsons, outside linebacker, Penn State. This is perhaps the steal of the first round in this mock draft, as Parsons was thought out to be a top 5 pick 6 months ago, and then he opted out of the season, which hurt his stock. Parsons has shown versatility and elite playmaking in his time in college, and the Pats would have themselves a player on defense that they've lacked for some time now. 16, the Arizona Cardinals, Kyle Pitts, tight end, Florida. Pitts is the best tight end that's been drafted since TJ Hockenson a few years ago, and him falling to the Cardinals would be a steal. Kyler Murray needs more around him to succeed outside of DeAndre Hopkins, and Pitts can come in and be an impact player immediately. 17, Las Vegas Raiders, Kwity Paye, defensive end, Michigan. The Raiders' weakness since they dealt away Khalil Mack has been rushing the passer. Enter Paye, who would be a steal at this point and will help the Raiders improve their pass rush with his great athleticism and ability to pass or rush the passer. 19, the Miami Dolphins, Jeremiah Owusu-Komora, linebacker, Notre Dame. The Dolphins, despite having a great season a year ago, have a ton of weaknesses that they must address in order to make a jump to the postseason. Owusu-Komora is someone that showed great playmaking and athleticism on an Irish defense that had some fine moments this past season. 19, the Washington Professional Football Team, Mac Jones, quarterback, Alabama. With the releasing of Dwayne Haskins, Washington now has a need for a quarterback that they would need to turn their franchise around. Despite a promising showing from Taylor Heineke in the playoff defeat, he is not the answer. Jones had a fantastic season at Alabama in which his stock rose, and it is to be determined whether it's a product of the great talent around him or not. 20, the Chicago Bears, Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle, Virginia Tech. Say all you want about the Bears quarterback situation, but their biggest weakness relies on their offensive line, and they need reinforcements in the worst way. Darisaw is someone that has had great blocking skills and come in and started left tackle right away. 21, Indianapolis Colts. Zach Wilson, quarterback, BYU. The Colts can go in a number of directions here, but here I have them taking the young passer in Wilson, who is coming off a career year in college. Even if they bring in a veteran for the short term, I could see them taking a chance with Wilson here, as he'd be in a redshirt situation before taking over in the long haul. So, like the Packers quarterback that they took last year, that's what this would be like in this scenario. 22, the Tennessee Titans. Azeez Ojulari, defensive end, outside linebacker, Georgia. This would be a solid pick for the Titans, who need reinforcements on their pass rush badly. Ojulari has shown great athleticism in college and come in and help the Titans pass rush, as they have failed to replace Jarrell Casey. 23, New York Jets from the Seattle Seahawks. Najee Harris, running back, Alabama. The Jets have options with this selection. Here I have them snagging the longtime Crimson Tide back in Harris. The running game was not ideal for the Jets last season, as they were relying on veteran Frank Gore, and Harris can come in and produce for gangrene regardless of who's at quarterback. Number 24, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Levi Onwuzurike, defensive tackle, Washington. The Steelers can go in a number of ways here. Onwuzurike opted out last season, but showed great ability to stop the run in trenches of the defense while in college and at the Senior Bowl. He would make the pass rush better alongside TJ Watt. Number 25, the Jacksonville Jaguars from the Los Angeles Rams. Nick Bolton, linebacker, Missouri. The Jaguars have a ton of holes on their roster, even with Trevor Lawrence presumptively being the number 1 overall pick. Bolton has shown a ton of flashes in college with his playmaking ability and would be a nice fit in their front seven, along with Josh Allen and K'Lavon Chasen. Number 26, the Cleveland Browns. Zaven Collins, inside linebacker, Tulsa. Collins had an excellent season as a senior, as he improved his stock tremendously. The Browns can use some linebacking help, as we saw throughout the season, and Collins can help that unit with his great size and athleticism. 27, the Baltimore Ravens. Jalen Phillips, defensive end, Miami. Phillips is someone that was always overshadowed in college due to the presence of Gregory Rousseau. With Matthew Judon and Yannick Ngakoue being free agents, this would be a wise selection here for the Ravens. 28, New Orleans Saints. Jason Oweh, defensive end, Penn State. Oweh is someone that was underrated in college on a Penn State defense that was solid at times. The Saints can use someone on the edge alongside Cameron Jordan, and Oweh has a ton of potential to be a player in this league. 29, the Green Bay Packers. Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle, Michigan. The Packers' offensive line was exposed in the postseason largely due to the injury to David Bakhtiari. But they can use some youth on that offensive line to keep Aaron Rodgers upright, as Mayfield can come in and provide that. 30, Buffalo Bills. Carlos Basham Jr., defensive end, Wake Forest. The Bills' defensive line got exposed in the postseason by the Chiefs and at times during the regular season against good offenses. Basham is someone that is fast and has great hands and can come in and have a nice impact. 31, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Joseph Osei, defensive end, Texas. With Shaq Barrett set to be a free agent, the Bucs may have a need for an edge rusher. Osei showed some flashes in college with the Longhorns the past few years, and he can learn from some of the great veterans that the Bucs have on their pass rush. 32, the Kansas City Chiefs. Rondale Moore, wide receiver, Purdue. The Chiefs land the possible steal here with Moore, who doesn't get the attention of the top 3 receivers in this draft class. With Sammy Watkins set to be a free agent, as well as Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle, this selection feels right. So there you have it, my first mock draft of the year. Now we will talk about moves that have been made in Major League Baseball free agency recently. Yesterday it was announced that Nelson Cruz signed the 1-year deal, $13 million with the Minnesota Twins. Cruz was great for the Twins the past few seasons, so it made sense for them to bring him back as their designated hitter. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Twins, with their new additions, would fit in. They signed Andrelton Simmons to a 1-year deal as well. And now they have a lot of pieces with their offense. Obviously, Eddie Rosario left as a free agent. They'll miss him. So it's a good thing that they got Cruz back. And then they're banking on other guys to take that next step as well in their lineup offensively. And then another one that happened recently, but we just didn't talk about, was Didi Gregorius re-signing with the Phillies on a 2-year deal. Smart for the Phillies to do that. Didi had a great year last year, and he always thrived under Joe Girardi with the Yankees, and now last year at Philly. So it made sense because they needed a shortstop. So they brought him back. They brought back JT Realmuto, which we discussed on the podcast last week. So now Philly has Didi, JT, Bryce Harper, Rhys Hoskins, Alec Boehm, Andrew McCutchen. So they have some names offensively, but they need their pitching staff to come together in order for them to be successful. And they're in a tough division with the Mets, the Braves, the Nationals, and a Marlins team that surprisingly made the postseason last year. And guys that are still left out there, Marcell Ozuna, who had a great year for Atlanta last year. Obviously, it was announced that the players denied the proposal, which I think is a good thing for Major League Baseball to get things back to normal. But the one thing that they lose that was great last year is the universal DH. Because then the pitchers have to hit again, and it risks them injury. So that was the one thing that that proposal was good. And then they lose expanded playoffs, which could prevent, which is good and bad. It's bad because it takes away drama like we saw last year with the Marlins upsetting the Cubs and stuff like that. But it also takes away potential of an under 500 team in the postseason like we saw last year at the Brewers. So Marcell Ozuna is still a free agent. He's probably going to go to an American League team. And then Edwin Encarnacion is still out there as well. And then there's some other guys that are still out there as well. But Andrew Chafin re-signed with the Cubs, so he should help them in their bullpen. So it's going to be interesting to see where Ozuna goes. And then, obviously, also still out there is Trevor Bauer. He's yet to be signed. Liam Hendricks signed with the White Sox. I'm looking at the free agent list right now. We talked about Didi already. Marcus Stroman we talked about. Justin Tucker still out there. You would think that he would go back to the Dodgers. Michael Brantley re-signed with the Astros. Nicholas Castellanos is a trade candidate in a contract year. We talked about Simmons going to the Twins. Masahiro Tanaka went to Japan. Alex Colom's still out there. Shane Green's still out there as relievers. So, still some big names on the market, and we're going to see where these guys land. And if any of them find the home soon, obviously we'll discuss it on the podcast. Last, I'm going to do my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. I have some interesting options for sure. And the one that I like the most, but I don't know if I have the balls to pull the trigger because there's still a chance that Joel Embiid doesn't play. So I'm going to hang off on the Sixers for now. Instead, I'm going to go with the college basketball total that I thought was ridiculously low, and that is Virginia NC State over 129.5. Virginia is a little bit better offensively than they've been in years past. NC State, I think, is pretty solid offensively as well. So I think this game is going to be played into the 130. So give me over 129.5 between Virginia and NC State. So that's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the results from college basketball, NBA, and NHL today and looking ahead to tomorrow's games. I'm going to do my NHL power rankings tomorrow. I may have my friend Jack Maglicetti on the show. He has not been on in a while. Either tomorrow or Friday to do WNBA and preview NASCAR. So stay tuned for that. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.